Activist investing has been a big theme of the last few years in M&A and corporate governance. Ren, one interesting question in flux really is legally speaking, when is it legitimate for a company to respond by putting in place barriers like poison pills and staggered boards and all these other things?
We all know poison pills, there are restrictions on that. They have to be a reasonable response to a legitimate threat.
Right, just a way to buy time, get a better deal, whatever
right.
it is.
And, and the question is, when is the trigger point, of course. So there was a big case, as you remember, Sotheby's, Dan Loeb, acquired close to 10%. There was a poison pill there. Said, well, if you're an activist, your trigger is 10%. If you're not, it's 20%. Dan Loeb said, that's not fair. You're discriminating against this, and I'm not even trying to take over the company. I'm just trying to exert pressure.
Right, and of course this is important for activism because quite often they're working with a pretty small shareholding, in fact, and they're just making a lot of noise.
Yeah, and as you remember, in that case, there were other activists out there. There was Mercado, there was another hedge fund, and there was apparently no formal agreement among them, but they were all sort of after the same thing. And as you recall, Loeb challenged the pill, and the court said, well, okay, maybe you're not trying to take over the company, but the company Sotheby's has a reasonable fear that you and these other hedge funds may together take over the company.
Right, and we're calling this a wolf pack and acting in parallel, but they're not acting in concert.
Right, there's no formal agreement here, and that's what brings up the SEC. A week or two ago, it was reported that the SEC was snooping around hedge funds for violating a rule that requires them, if they're acting in concert, to report their holdings over 5%.
And this has happened before that they haven't done that. I mean, there
have
been instances.
And they haven't done that because there's never been a formal agreement that anyone can tell. The SEC says, well, we think you're just doing it secretly, and we want to look into that. But that's a very hard thing to prove.
But meanwhile, the courts are kind of letting companies define it just as if the activists are out
Sotheby's, the Delaware Court of Chancery in the Sotheby's case said if there's conscious parallelism, meaning not a formal agreement. I mean, it's just a very clunky term.
It's a very nebulous
but
idea,
if there's, that's a reasonable fear from the company's point of view that you're a threat. You group, not group because group is a formal term that implies an agreement, but association of people sort of after the same thing, that's a legitimate fear. Maybe that can trigger a pill. Now that hasn't been tested yet, but that seems, if companies want to protect against wolf packs, maybe the poison pill will be a far more effective and immediate way to go than some SEC investigation.
And I'm sure this will go back and forth as the balance of power between activists and corporate boards changes.
Always changes, always testing the limits, going to court, saying what's legal, what's not legal. We'll have to see on this one, but it's an interesting little development in that way.
Got it. Thank you very much, Ren. We'll have more breaking views for you tomorrow.